Okay, without repeating, which I'm about to do, the point that the per se offenses are not surrogates for impairment. They're additional offenses for impairment to send a strong message to Canadians that you're at risk if you smoke and drive. From a public policy point of view, our concern, of course, is, as Senator Bobineau said, not to create victims, but it's the public health and safety of Canadians, especially those who are either driving or find themselves in an environment where somebody is driving having consumed cannabis. People have been consuming cannabis and driving, wrongly believing they're driving just fine for decades and decades in this country. It's a real social problem. So from a policy point of view, what is the best response? And this is our responsibility as legislators to deal with this current problem. You mentioned research, couldn't agree more. I'm a former academic. Bravo. Education re-risks and education, absolutely, and the science isn't fully there yet, but it's there enough. We know this from our Drug and Driving Committee, that cannabis use impairs those cognitive abilities relevant to driving. So would it not be a responsible legislative response at this moment in time, faced with the carnage on our roads, to send a strong signal to Canadians with per se tests and all of that, that it's not safe to smoke or eat, consume, and drive. There will be challenges to be sure, but from a public policy point of view, I'd like your opinion on that, some summary of how I see things.
I'll just respond very quickly and then pass it to Dr. Wood, but I'd say that absolutely, per se basically is prophylactic. It basically, people know that wow, one of the risks is not just crashing, and they may think I'm a great driver when I've smoked cannabis, but in fact, whoa, if I don't want the legal liability of getting caught, and if you set a low limit, a low point, a 2 or a 5 or even 1, then in fact you're saying to people, I don't really care how impaired you are. We don't want you driving and using cannabis, or you're going to have to wait a good long time. Now, that's unfair to frequent users, because as you've heard, their levels are going to be at that level when they haven't acutely been using the drug.
It's always Uber.
Yeah, I would say that's a really good label. I was thinking about earlier today, for this cannabis product in the store that you just bought, would just say, use Uber, okay? that would be fine. You don't want them to drive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kay. Anything to add?
I mean, I agree that I think having the per se law or cutoffs do make sense if the cutoffs chosen have some good science backing them, and then it is great for the public if they can even, just like you can get your personal breathalyzer, if you can get your personal THC sampler to see when you're below that, that'd be great. Great way to inform the public, and it definitely would help.
Yeah, just a moment to say to Senator Bobineau that actually I do think that there would be some legitimate basis for using this higher per se level of 7 to 8, because that does relate to aspects of driving from driving studies that are worse than a 0.05, where we know that there's a crash risk. So I would say if I had to go to court and be defending this per se limit, I would say that's a defensible per se limit. I don't know if you want to agree with that one or not.
No,
okay.
Thank you. Well, thank you both, gentlemen. It was very helpful. I'm sure that you have given to each and every senator food for thought at this point in time. And thank you again to have accepted our invitation and contributed to our sitting this morning. Meeting is adjourned.